questions before we do get started while he's doing the technical stuff? Speak up. Don't be shy.
Okay, we're live now, and again, I'd like to welcome everybody here to our candidate forum to determine a replacement appointment for the 51st District. We have seated behind us 5 candidates from various precincts in the 51st District. If I could have them quickly announce their names and the precincts in which they're from.
I'm Charity Grim-Kruba, and I'm from Spring Hill Township.
Good evening, my name is Gary Gearing, and I'm from Uniontown, Ward 2.
I'm Scott Cully, I'm from North Union 3 in Hopwood.
I'm Ryan Perubsky, and I'm from Nicholson Township.
I'm Kenny Nicholson, and I'm from Haydentown.
Thank you very much. I was selected to read the questions, which again, I have myself not seen, nor has anyone other than the webmaster who is receiving those submissions. So these are not known to me or anyone else at this time. And again, I was selected to read these as an executive board member who is outside of the 51st District. A couple of rules to read first. Candidates will have 90 seconds to answer each question. The moderator will start the timer after notifying each candidate that their time has begun, and they will be given a 30-second remaining cue. Only the candidate that is being asked may speak. Any crosstalk while another candidate is speaking will result in forfeiting of the time for the offender. Candidates may not use their time to address the other candidates in a negative fashion. We want to hear what the candidate has to say about their beliefs or plans, not the beliefs or plans of others. Failure to adhere will result in the loss of any remaining time on that question for the offender. Candidates may not yield time to another candidate. Each candidate will get 90 seconds to answer each question and no more. Those are the rules. Does everyone understand?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we did have a drawing of the short straw, so I do believe that the very first question is going to be asked to Mr. Gary Gearing, and that question is regarding political offices and write-ins. If you are not selected as the candidate for the 51st District for the November ballot, will you be running a write-in campaign or running for a different position? And if yes, why? And if running for another position, which one?
That's an easy question, and the answer is just no. If I'm not selected for the 51st District, I will not be running a write-in candidate or running for another office.
Thank you for your question. We'll move along. Then
Yeah,
same question.
The answer is no. I will not be running for another office or as a write-in in this election.
Thank you very much. Mr. Perubsky?
To answer the question simply, I would continue with my write-in campaign. I can't leave my supporters behind if I wasn't successful in securing this nomination from the committee.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ms.
Okay.
Nicholson Moran.
To run for another position, no. Write-in, that's a possibility. That's all I can say right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would respect the committee's decision. I would have no intention of doing any type of write-in campaign. I think that doing a write-in campaign is going to effectively give the Democratic opposition a really good chance to come in and take it. With respect to running for another office, I have no intention of trying to run for any other office this year. I know there were questions about if I were, by the grace of God, to be elected by the committee and then again, by the grace of God, be elected, whether I would run for county judge next year. I can promise everybody that if I were to be elected, I would not be running for county judge next year. I would complete my term. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Mr. Gearing started with the first question, so now we'll be moving to Mr. Cully. You'll be answering first and then moving down the line. This is question number 2 in regards to reason for running. With Matt Dowling removing his name from the ballot, we the people of Pennsylvania's 51st District are in need of a candidate that, if elected, will serve the people and their interests. What are your reasons for running for this position?
I'm running for the position because I think I can represent the average person and just not the elites or the corporations or the special interests. I think that's what is wrong with our political system to a large extent, federal, state, and probably local, but definitely federal and state. There needs to be more emphasis on representing the average person, keeping taxes down, keeping spending down, and doing what benefits the vast majority, not just a few.
Thank you, Mr. Pelley. Same question to Mr. Perutsky. If you need the question answered or read again, I'll be glad to do that.
Would you please?
Yes, here's the
Thank you.
question. Reason for running. With Matt Dowling removing his name from the ballot, we the people of Pennsylvania's 51st District are in need of a candidate that, if elected, will serve the people and their interests. What are your reasons for running for this position?
Well, when I set out to run for this position, I wanted to give the people of the 51st District choices. We all knew, about Mr. Dowling, but, I didn't want to hit him below the belt during the primary. But, the main reason is I want to reduce corporate income tax here in the 51st to make it competitive for small businesses. We border Monongalia County. I want to improve education. I want to reduce taxing and spend policies. I've never voted for a tax increase during my tenure on the school board, and I feel like I'm the most rounded candidate. I'm a farmer. I've worked at UPS. I've worked for the Department of Defense, so I could represent you well in Harrisburg. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perutsky. Same question to Ms. Nicholson Moran.
Okay, first of all, I'm thrilled to have this opportunity because I believe it's time for a change. I know in the scheme of things, I'm nobody, but somebody has to step up and do something. I mean, Fayette County's gone to hell in a handbasket. I mean, you guys gotta realize that. It's just bad. I mean, especially with Matt and his problem. I mean, when we have somebody that's well-respected and looked up to and this happens, I mean, it's bad. Think about it. I mean, it's just not the average people that something like this is happening with. There's problems in schools, with kids, families, drugs, alcohol abuse, homelessness, crime. And I'm not talking about like everyday run-of-the-mill crime that we hear about. I mean, I'm talking about violence. People are getting killed out there. I mean, what is going on? This isn't Chicago, Something has to be done. And, I really don't have to say anymore, but I will close it with saying this, that this is not the place that I grew up in. It's bad.
Thank you. Ms. Krupa, do you need the question repeated?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Thank you. I have been training for this position for 20 years, and I didn't even realize it until recently. 20 years ago, in 2002, I started law school. I had 3 intense years of legal training. I learned to research the law, argue the law, analyze the law. I learned to write legal documents and laws. After law school, I clerked for Fayette County Court of Common Pleas Judge Steve Leskinen, and he's an amazing man, and that was a wonderful opportunity. I appreciated not just him as a person, but the fact that he's a brilliant legal scholar. After I clerked for Judge Leskinen, I opened a private practice, and I've been a general practitioner. I've done a wide range of different cases, and you're probably asking, well, that's every attorney in Fayette County. What sets me apart from the other attorneys in Fayette County is my passion for constitutional law cases. So as far as I'm aware, and there's 2 attorneys in the room, can correct me, 3 attorneys other than myself, I'm the only attorney who regularly and actively files federal constitution lawsuits. If you elect me and you send me to Harrisburg, I will continue to defend and protect our Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gearing. Same question.
Thank you. The reason why I'm running for this office is basically more of a timing situation. I've run for this office 3 times in the past, unfortunately, unsuccessfully. And I've been running the Fayette building, saved the building from being condemned, National Historic Monument, and I've just be closing on the sale of that building. So I'll be able to devote all of my time to the citizens of Fayette County in the 51st District. I have been out walking and knocking on thousands of doors, tens of thousands of doors, even though the, how you say, district has changed over the last 10 years and been restructured. I've talked to a lot of you. I've been to a lot of organizations, and we've met. You know who I am. I've always had an open door policy. We'll continue to do the same. And please keep me in mind and keep an open mind. And we have candidates. I'm glad that we're having this forum this evening, okay? And I'm glad that we have people that are actually getting involved and stepping up to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gearing. This next question, we'll start with Mr. Perupski and then move down the line. This next question is on the topic of abortion. With the overturning of Roe v. Wade, the issue of abortion legality is now returned to the states. How will you protect the right to life in Pennsylvania?
Well, I'm pro-life. I believe life starts at conception. It says in Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 1, that before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And I'm firmly against taxpayer-funded abortion and abortion in general. You know, I think the government paints with too broad of a brush. And, you know, I find it ironic that everyone who advocates against abortion has in fact been born. And that concludes my response. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Perupski. Ms. Nicholson-Moran, would you like the question repeated?
No.
Okay.
All I can say on that is I'm pro-life and I don't believe in abortion.
Thank you very much. Ms. Turbo.
Thank you. I am absolutely pro-life with the proposed constitutional amendment right now. So with the new Supreme Court laws, and there's a total misconception that the new Supreme Court law banned abortion. That's not true. The Supreme Court basically said, this is a state issue, we're sending it back to the state. So our legislatures have proposed a constitutional amendment that says that Pennsylvania's constitution does not recognize the right to abortion. So there's a process though, and if I were to be elected, I would push so that I would push for it to become a constitutional amendment, I guess we would be at the mercy of the governor at that time, and that's why it's really important to pay attention to your governor race as well. But I'm absolutely pro-life. I think that there are so many victims. I mean, we're not supposed to judge anybody, and I think that the young women that are oftentimes pressured into an abortion, I think you have a victim there too, and I think that we need to look at some social concerns about why are these young women getting into this position in the first place. That's all I have on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Turbo. Mr. Gearing, same question.
Well, I'm absolutely for a woman's right to choose. Without that, I would have lost a daughter who had an ectopic pregnancy, and I would not have 2 grandchildren. There are a lot about mitigating circumstances to allow certain procedures, medical procedures, to take place, and it's very important. And it's a complicated issue, but when we want to talk about religious orientations and different things, anybody that makes that choice and that decision, they're going to stand in front of their maker. We are not the ones to be the judge. I am pro-choice.
Thank you, Mr. Gearing. Mr. Cully, same question.
I'm 100% pro-life, and you know, I think it was an awful decision by Roe versus Wade to begin with, legally and morally, and I'm glad that it was overturned and sent back to the states. If anything were to be done at the state level, along with that, it would be, supporting adoption, in, getting people that, getting them the help they need possibly to adopt or to connect, to adopt, to facilitate it. Not necessarily tax dollars, but to facilitate, someone who would have previously wanted to, have an abortion.
Is that all?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes. Okay. All right, thank you very much. The next question, we'll start with Ms. Nicholson Moran. Oh,
Did I start the abortion one? You did.
yeah, okay, and then again, we'll work our way. This question is regarding standing your ground. Most, if not all, political positions in our system of government can draw those involved into some sort of ideological conflict, especially in our current political climate. How can we expect you to handle conflict and represent the people without sacrificing conservative values, and what are those values?
Okay, well, I have a little problem going on right now in Georges Township I'd like to talk to everybody about. I crossed paths with a lady that's homeless. She's been living in her car for 2 years, and I gave her a place to stay in a camper on a piece of property I own. Well, right away I have zoning come out, code enforcement officers, everything you can imagine, and saying it's illegal to live in a camper. I mean, I'm just fighting, out of the goodness of my heart, I just wanted to help this woman. I gave her a bed to sleep on and a table to eat on. I mean, to her, that was home. But now they want to fine me $500 a day. I mean, for doing a good deed, that's how I feel, you know. At the time, I didn't know it was illegal. Who knew? I mean, who would know about something like that? So I'm standing my ground. I'm trying to fight for this woman right now. All they want to do is they want her to hit the road. They want her to leave. I mean, she has no place to go. I mean, she's been harassed and intimidated, humiliated by township people. I mean, I was only trying to help. I mean, you know, people say, oh, and even these churches say, oh, help the poor and the needy, but as soon as they're in your backyard, they want to run them out of town, and it's just not right that they've been belittling her in this heat. Nobody's even offered her a bottle of water. People know she's there. They rock the camper trying to flip it some nights. I mean, they're just doing all kinds of things to her, and it's a shame. I feel for her.
Time has expired. Thank you. Ms. Krupa, would you like me to repeat the question again?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
So I'm looking at this as a two-part question. How do I address conflict resolution, and what are my core conservative values? So in terms of conflict resolution, and this is part of the legal training, you are taught that you don't argue with your co-counsel, although there are some that will do that. You're taught to argue to the judge. And if you get to the point that you have to name call, you're taking away from all your merits. You've lost the argument if you have to name call. And I would not engage in that kind of behavior. In terms of core conservative values, and I think this is where part of that comes from too with me, is part of my core conservative values is my faith. And what's the most second important, commandment. It's, that you're supposed to love each other. And that goes to treating each other with respect even when you disagree with them. And I think that you have to, if you want to be in this position and you want to be effective and you want to make change, you have to respect other people as human beings. In terms of conservative values, obviously we've hit pro-life. I am a fierce supporter of the Second Amendment. I believe that the government should be fiscally responsible. I believe in government transparency. If you're doing something with the government, you should be taping it and making it available to the public, putting your agendas out there in advance. Don't get me started on COVID vaccines. There's no way I would support those, and I could go on, but I think that's address the issue. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Gearing, same question. Do you need it repeated?
No, I do not.
Okay, very good.
And I do believe that my record actually speaks for itself. Whenever I was on city council, when you're talking about standing your ground and representing the people, I was the person that was creating transparency and filming the city council meetings even whenever I was threatened by the mayor to be arrested and sued. I also had to, sue the city for sunshine law violations because they just weren't following the rules and they had the votes. All they had to do was just do it correctly. They just chose not to. The problem is, though, sometimes people do things because they can just get away with it, because there's no consequence for their actions. That's very disappointing. Again, asking questions. I do that constantly and continuously, and was threatened to be arrested at a council meeting because I was asking questions and doing my job. My job is to represent the people of my district, and that's what I intend to do. And thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Same question, Mr. Cully.
Would you repeat it, please?
Yes, the question is pertaining to standing your ground. Most, if not all, political positions in our system of government can draw those involved into some sort of ideological conflict, especially in our current political climate. How can we expect you to handle conflict and represent the people without sacrificing conservative values? And what are those values?
My training is as an engineer, both at the bachelor and master's level. I look at facts. I think as an engineer. You look at facts, all the facts that you have, and you come to a conclusion. And in my work, in my career, a number of times I have had disagreements, and if the facts are on your side, you stand your ground. You're open to listen in case there's some facts you're missing. But as far as my principles, social and fiscal conservatives, I think at this point we need the fiscal conservative element as much, if not more, as the social. We're spending way too much money in general at all levels of government. Government's trying to do too much beyond what their scope is. We need to walk that back and get taxes down and live within a budget like everyone here has to do. The government must live within a budget.
Thank you very much. Mr. Perutsky, same question to you.
Well, Dawn, ladies and gentlemen of this committee, people of the 51st District, I'm a God-fearing conservative man of principle. And I'm also the president of the Albert Gallatin School Board. So I've had to hold my ground on a plethora of issues on that board. I fought critical race theory in Albert Gallatin School District. I fought a tyrant governor over a mask mandate. The governor threatened to prosecute me as an individual for voting against his mask mandates. So I'm not afraid to hold my ground and stand up for my values, which also may align with your values, people of the 51st District. I'm a fiscal conservative. During my tenure on the board, I never voted to raise taxes. I fended off four out of 5 tax increases during my tenure. A tax increase, the 5th tax increase could have been avoided if a director didn't untimely resign from her term. And I secured the lowest interest rate on a municipal bond this county's seen since 1957 at 1.2%. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next question. The topic will be energy, and we'll be starting with Ms. Krupa. Everyone sees the impact of rising fuel and energy costs at the pump, at the grocery store, and when they get their monthly bills. Do you have a plan to help make Fayette County and Pennsylvania energy independent, and what is that plan?
So Joe Biden's all but declared war on the natural gas industry. And our legislature has to stick together and pass any legislation that we can to open up that resource. It is crazy that we are insane that we are paying, $5 per gallon for gas when we are one of the richest states in terms of natural resources, and we have that right here. We need to tap into that resource. Also, the excessive, I don't know if any of you have heard of ESG, and if I get this right, it's environmental social governance. And it's this idea that the liberal woke culture is going to control us and starve out businesses. And they're doing it through funding. They're saying, okay, you know what, we're gonna make this regulation or this stipulation, and if you don't meet our environmental standards, you're not gonna get the funding that you need. And it's those types of issues that we have to address, or otherwise the price of the gas is just gonna go up. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Deering, same question to you.
Well, I do believe that our natural resources are our biggest asset in the state of Pennsylvania. Again, natural gas, there's no reason why we cannot be energy independent in Pennsylvania. We have multitude of different resources. Just one of those is natural gas. We should be, infrastructure is key for the gas industry as well, because you have to get that product to other places. Even if you can't put a pipeline across New York, there's no reason why we can't make liquid natural gas and put it out of Philadelphia or a pipeline in Jersey to use our ports, so that we can even just, so New England doesn't have to be buying gas from Russia or Venezuela. They can be buying our own domestic product. It's a shame that we're asking our enemies and others to do what we're not willing to do ourselves. I think that we should be willing to help ourselves. We have the ability to do that. Inflation, the state just passed a budget. It's a $45.2 billion budget. I'm glad that we passed the budget, but again, money, income has never been our problem. Spending is our problem, okay? In 2002, the budget was $20.9 billion. Today it's 45.2. It continues to increase over the rate of inflation.
Time has expired. Thank you. Mr. Cully, same question to you regarding energy.
Well, I'd like to start out by saying I worked 20 years as a research engineer in the energy business. I worked for a contractor for Department of Energy in Morgantown, and I also worked at the Bettis Atomic Power Lab, which looked at energy, power plants for Navy ships. Energy should be operating in a free market, not mandates from the government. I mean, electric vehicles are the big thing right now. If the free market says, that's what people want and they're willing to do it, fine. But it's the absolute wrong way to jack up prices of natural gas and gasoline to make, the cars we have now as expensive as electric vehicles. I think we need to encourage the development of the natural gas we have. We should still go back to using coal, I think, where it can be used cleanly. Energy is such a basic thing in our economy. It's caused everything to go up.
Time has expired. Thank you. Mr. Perubsky, same question.
So, this is very important to me, energy independence. Within the first 100 days, I'd look to co-sponsor legislation or sponsor my own legislation to make Pennsylvania energy independent. I'd look at ways to use the expansive state right-of-way system to allow companies to put in pipelines so we could use that revenue to reduce some of the tolls on these roads. It's ridiculous. It costs $3 to go from Smithfield to Morgantown. So I'd look at that, and I'd look at development of our natural gas here in Pennsylvania so it could be used in our power plants and we could power our cars. If the federal government and the other states want to buy OPEC oil, let them. We need to use our energy that's right here under our feet. And I've already been doing this. The Albert Gallatin School District uses propane buses. Propane sourced from right here in Pennsylvania and parts of Canada. So you can count on me to work on energy independence for you as Pennsylvanians and people of the 51st District. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nicholson Moran, same question.
Okay, well, nothing's gonna get any better right now. Pipelines have to be open for things to be improved, and that's not gonna happen. Biden closed them, and everybody knows this, on his first day in office, so he's not gonna cave this time, you know. He made a statement when he did that, so he's not gonna go back on his word, so to speak, and say, oh, I made a mistake, we're gonna correct this, we're gonna open those lines up, we're gonna help the people. I mean, if anything, he's working against the people. I mean, if you all remember, Trump warned America during one of those debates when he said that he wanted to close things like that. Trump said, did you hear that? And one of the states he mentioned was, he said, did you hear that, Pennsylvania? Did you hear that, Texas? I mean, we should have known before he got in there what he had planned to do. I mean, you know, that's just common sense. So pipelines aren't going to open. He's not going to do it. I mean, it's just against his character. He thinks he made the right decision, and he's going to stick by it. He's going to stand his ground.
Thank you. The next question will be on gun rights, and we'll start back with Mr. Gearing. Gun rights. As in every election season, the Second Amendment is under attack from the Democrats and even some Republicans. Regarding gun freedom for Pennsylvania gun owners, please specify any of the following that you would not support and why. And which of these will you act upon first if elected in November? So of the following that you would not support and why. The first is constitutional carry in PA. The next is banning red flag laws. The third is legalizing suppressors. The fourth is abolishing the PICS background check system, which is run by state police de facto registry. The next is bar enforcing federal gun laws by state and local law enforcement. And the last is exempt CCW permit holders from background checks.
Well, I'm not sure that I understand the question fully, but I'll go through my Second Amendment. I believe that everybody, the Second Amendment, I'm a strong advocate for the Second Amendment, okay? Do I have a problem with background checks for people? No, I do not. You know, we have there are crazy people out there that do crazy things. It's very difficult to stop people from breaking the law when they're intent on doing so. Passing more laws doesn't necessarily mean that people aren't going to violate those laws as well. I believe in the Second Amendment, and people should be able to carry.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cully, same question.
Well, criminals by definition don't follow the law. Our Constitution gives us the right to have guns. I would support the constitutional carry because, well, you look at the school shootings. Why are there so many school shootings? Because a number of years ago, schools were made a gun-free zone. I mean, it's just, people are targets. And someone who wants to go in and start shooting, they're gonna pick an easy target. If they know there's a possibility that someone would have a gun on them, they might think twice before entering the school and wreaking havoc. It's the red flag laws, the way they're being implemented in some states, I just don't agree with it, because anybody can make a big stink over someone they have a quarrel with, and next thing you know, you'll have law enforcement knocking on your door and taking your guns. And you have to prove your innocence more than the other party proving your guilt. And that's not how our system should work. You're innocent until proven guilty.
Thank you. Mr. Perupski, same question.
Well, to answer the question specifically, I would support a constitutional carry. Our founders put the Second Amendment in our U.S. Constitution, and the founders of Pennsylvania put Article 1, Section 21 in the Pennsylvania Constitution to protect our right to carry and bear arms. They did that to protect, so we could protect ourselves from future oppressive governments. I'm endorsed by the Gun Owners of America right now, moving into this general. I scored a 100% on their test to vet candidates on their endorsement. As far as the schools, Senator Mastriano recently proposed legislation to arm employees at the school, which I would definitely support, with training, with adequate training for those arms. I think it's important that we protect our Second Amendment rights and our students, as they're our most precious resource. And I truly believe the Second Amendment protects all the others. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nicholson Moran, same question.
Well, I'm pro-gun. I believe in the Second Amendment, but I'm for responsible gun ownership. I've never liked the phrase, oh, guns kill people, or guns don't kill people, people kill people. I mean, that's not necessarily true. It should be irresponsible people kill, use the guns to kill people. I mean, think about it. I mean, just silly slogans sometimes just don't get it. And, the violence that we've even been having around here, I mean, this is not Philadelphia or inner city Baltimore or something. I mean, you can't go a day without hearing about some kind of violent crime. I mean, there's daily shootings, like we're competing to be number one, like, in the shooting business around here. I mean, kids have guns. I mean, we talk about background checks. Well, these kids, they're getting the guns. I mean, they're teenagers. They don't have to worry about a background check. They shouldn't even have a gun. Somehow they're getting them. I mean, so if we're going to talk about background checks, that's for the older people. And, so that's not always the answer. Guns are everywhere, and, you're just not going to stop it.
You done? Thank you. Ms. Krupa, same question.
Can you repeat the first three, please?
Yes, I will.
Does that count as my time?
No, okay. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Just the first three.
Three, constitutional carry
Okay.
in PA. Banning red flag laws is the second. And the third is legalizing suppressors.
Okay, 90 seconds is not nearly enough on this one. The constitutional carry, absolutely. The Second Amendment is a right, not a privilege. We shouldn't have to apply for that the way you would a driver's license or a bar admission or et cetera. The red flag laws, absolutely, those are a problem. And anybody in my private practice I've seen where, and I don't mean to discount true victims of domestic violence, but I think it's common knowledge that if you're going through a separation or a divorce, if you say the right key buzzwords, you're going to end up in possession of the house, you're going to end up with the kids, and you're going to lose all your firearms. So if we're already having those problems with the PFAs, and I would support and sponsor legislation to change the burden of proof, to make it a higher burden of proof in the PFAs. But the red flag laws are even worse. How would you like a neighbor who wants to rob you to call in the week before and say, hey, yeah, they're crazy, I think you should take their guns? No, absolutely not. Told you it's 90 seconds wasn't enough. Abolishing the PICS background check and using a national system? Yes, absolutely. Pennsylvania's spending all kind of money now and charging us to do this background check when that's available through the national government. Let's use the national system. The exempt to the CCW holders from the background checks, yeah, if these people, you know, and you're typically, if I'm understanding CCW right, you're law enforcement officers, why do they need to do a background check? Thank you.
The time's expired.
Thanks.
This next question is regarding medical freedom, and we'll start with Mr. Tully and go down the line. Medical freedom. 2020 was the year of tyrannical business lockdowns, mandatory vaccination requirements by both state agencies and many private entities, and forced isolation. What is your stance on mandatory vaccinations, childhood or otherwise, for adults, and what would you do as a representative to block mandatory vaccination from state and private groups?
If you don't have freedom to decide what you do with your body, for health reasons, you don't have freedom. Vaccines should be available, but they should in no way be forced on anybody. There's especially the COVID vaccine, but even the ones that have gone through a lot of testing, there's been people that have severe reactions to them. And, you know, it's a personal decision of what you do with your own health decisions, period. And I just don't think it's the right way for a government of any level to be mandating what our decision would be.
Thank you. Mr. Krupski, same question.
Could you repeat the question, please,
Yes,
Dawn?
the
Thank
question
you.
is medical freedom. 2020 was the year of tyrannical business lockdowns, mandatory vaccination requirements by both state agencies and many private entities, and forced isolation. What is your stance on mandatory vaccinations, childhood or otherwise, for adults, and what would you do as a representative to block mandatory vaccination from state and private groups?
Well, to answer that question, I'd propose legislation to leave it up to the people. The government paints with too broad of a brush and wants to infiltrate our lives, and that's unacceptable. I'm against mask mandates and vaccine mandates. I already mentioned during my tenure on the school board, I fought against Wolf's mask mandates. I advocated that it should be up to the parents whether they sent their kids to school with masks. And like I said, I'd propose legislation to allow individuals to decide and limit other people from telling you what you can do with the vaccines and masks. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nicholson Moran, same question.
I'm a nurse. You know, we might not have liked it, getting vaccines or being forced to get vaccines. I mean, definitely I had to have one to be able to work. I mean, really, you know, honestly, it was for the greater good. I mean, sometimes you gotta do things. It was to prevent the spread. And, I'm a hospice nurse. I work around people. I mean, if I would've spread it or they would've got, you know, that's definitely a death sentence. Makes their death come sooner, if anything. I mean, you know, you gotta think about things. I mean, it was a good thing. People didn't wanna do it. People didn't wanna mask up. It was for your own good. You have to look at it that way.
Thank you. Ms. Krupa, same question.
Thank you. Other states, some other states, Montana, for example, has, shortly after COVID vaccines came out, they passed legislation that prohibited any employer from making it a requirement that you be vaccinated. Why doesn't Pennsylvania have that? We should make it, I would sponsor that legislation that no employer is permitted to use that as a reason to terminate you or not hire you, and I think it should be the same with the school setting. I felt so passionately about not masking up that when COVID hit, obviously for the first few weeks everybody was remote, and I homeschooled my kids at the end of the spring 2020, but they've been PA Cyber ever since because I wasn't going to send my kids to school to wear masks all day, and I had it 3 different grade levels: high school, middle school, and elementary, and it was like a second full-time job. But no, I'm absolutely dead against mandatory vaccinations. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gearing, same question.
Well, I agree with most of the people here. I believe in the freedom of choice, and think that we should have legislation to be able to do that. I do believe that that's consistent with my opinion as well when we talked about abortion, on what you're allowed to do with your body. We're talking about the same thing here. What is your right? It's your body. It's your choice. I think we should show consistency in our ideologies and our philosophies. Thank you.
Thank you. This is the next question on Fayette County business development plans. We'll start with Mr. Perubsky. Our county is known to be one of the poorest in the Commonwealth. What is your plan to revitalize the economy of Fayette County, and please be specific?
Well, just like I planned to do in the primary if I were successful, I wanted to look at updating legislation and passing new legislation for the Local Economic Revitalization Tax Abatement Program, LERTA, which provides older communities with a short-term loan from the taxing body when they make improvements to their business or their property. I wanted to make that worthwhile for those businesses so that when they, the big businesses come to the 51st or they come to the Pennsylvania and they're in the Keystone Opportunity Zones. Their taxes are reduced for big business. What about the mom and pop shops? What about the small businesses? Where's their tax break? Where's their advantage? They've been fighting since 1920 to hang on. Where's their tax break? Where's their incentive to expand and continue helping our economy? So that's why I support that program, and that's why I'd like to see it streamlined so that more small businesses could use it. Because I think if we also start restoring our properties through that program, we can increase tourism here in Fayette County and ultimately improve our economy through the historic preservation of our area. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nicholson Moran, same question.
I think tourism should be a goal. I mean, we have a lot of natural beauty in this state, county. I mean, just in our area. I mean, people go everywhere else and, they really don't come here. And that's something that I really think we should cash in on. I mean, there's a lot of hidden treasures in this area. But, another thing is, I mean, we're building a jail. I think, it doesn't make sense. I mean, we should be building other things and putting the money elsewhere. I mean, if you build prisons, you're building them to fill them. I mean, think about it. I mean, the county is just going downhill. I mean, you're not going to have development when you have the crime that we have and, everything that's going on. I mean, like they say, if you build it, they'll come, and they will. They're going to fill that prison. We'll probably have to build another one. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, or the jails wouldn't be overcrowded right now. So we need to have other interventions to keep folks out of jail and, till we solve some of this crime and other things. I mean, we're not going to grow. I mean, we're not. That's why we're going downhill.
Thank you. Ms. Krupa, same question.
Thank you. There's so many issues to hit here. One, and there's I believe there's legislation right now to consider lowering the corporate tax rate. And I believe that Pennsylvania is only second to New Jersey. And that would be a benefit not just to the county, but statewide. Why would businesses come here if they're going to have to pay a higher tax rate? There's too many mandates and regulations. The government needs to stay out of business. For example, in my private practice, small businesses that, they can't afford to go have an attorney explain every step of what they need to do. And because the mandates and regulations are so complicated, it's effectively forced the mom and pop businesses out of business because they can't compete with large corporations. Another big issue is the lack of the workforce. We need a workforce and a labor force that is ready and has the skills and the training necessary to immediately join the workforce. In my private practice, I've seen a lot of single moms come in and say, I'm on welfare, I'm getting cash assistance, it makes no sense for me to go out and get a job because financially it hurts my family. We need to enact legislation and regulation that helps that person who's willing to go out and work for minimum wage, get them out of the house and make it financially beneficial to their family, that they go and work rather than sit home and collect more money. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gearing, same question.
Yes, the economy of Fayette County, again, parallels the economy of the state. Primary issue. And one of the things that we do and how do you generate revenues is actually our natural gas. If we're drilling, the impact fees that they come off, most of that money comes back to the county. Okay, those are resources that the commissioners and that we get to spend here and in our local economies. You know, I used to say that, you know, we were always a diamond in the rough because of the coal and coke industries, and now we're an emerald because of our green space with the mountains. And you know, our primary industries in Fayette County are still agriculture and tourism, and we need to support those. And people love coming here and doing this. So through a combination of, again, working with our agriculture and tourism, but developing our energy resources that we have, and developing the energy resources also reduces, if you have low energy, that also costs, you know, brings corporations and people here. And the state, when they passed the budget, they did lower the corporate net income tax from 9.8 to 8.9, and it's going to continue to reduce 0.5% until it gets down to 4.99. That'll take about 8 years.
Fine.
So that should bring
Thank you.
people in.
Thank you. Mr. Cully, same question.
Well, we're overregulated, overtaxed, and even being overtaxed, our government spends more than they take in. What I read recently, the state has $14 billion in debt. Not on top of that, the Turnpike Commission, due to Act 44, has another $14 billion in debt. Those two things need to be addressed immediately, as well as the way things are funded. You know, the state police are funded to, you know, quite a bit of what their funding comes from the gasoline tax, which is supposed to go to fix roads and bridges. Well, the Turnpike Commission, they're supposed to be taking care of the turnpike. But Act 44, up until the end of this year, they've been given $450 million to PennDOT. And, you know, and they still had to borrow $14 billion to do what they've been doing since 2009. They've accrued that amount of debt. I think spending bills should be straightforward. They should be funded by, in a very transparent way, and the spending should be minimized. Private industry can do better than government.
Don, thank you very much. Our next to last question will be starting with Ms. Nicholson Moran, and it is regarding representation. As a representative in a democratic republic, what specific steps will you take to ensure that your constituents' voices and concerns are present when you vote on their behalf in Harrisburg?
Well, first, you know, I believe we represent the people. We represent Fayette County. We take your concerns and what people want to accomplish or do or see, have done. That's what we're here to do. It's not like our opinion or what we want to do. I mean, I would propose to hold town meetings where people could come and air their grievances or concerns. I mean, maybe set something up at the county fair in a building, and even if it took all night, listen to everything everybody had to say. Just don't, you know, hear what they have to say. Actually listen. You know, like they say, oh, I hear you, but I'm not listening. Well, sit down and listen to people. I mean, have round tables or coffee talks or something, and just get to know people and what's going on and what we need. I mean, unless you do it on an individual basis like that, I mean, you're just taking your own thoughts and going to Harrisburg with doing what you wanna do. You don't know what the general public actually wants to do, or, what their opinions are, or, you know, what they'd really like to see happen. So I just wanna listen and hear what folks want done.
Thank you. Same question, Ms. Verba.
Yeah, so I think a big part of the thing is you can't get public input if the public doesn't know what the issues are. So that's where transparency comes in. The public needs to know what the issues are that are being addressed. But even before that, I'm a firm believer that there are brilliant people across the community from all walks of life, and God gave everybody different talents. So what one person may know, another may not. So I would have an open door policy to listen to suggestions from people in the constituency basis. Particularly, I mean, that's how a bill happens, is that somebody gets an idea for a bill, they take it, if it's not the legislature, they take it to their rep or their senator, and they say, hey, I've got this idea, and then you if it's a good idea, you support it and you follow it through. But there's lots of ways to get input, and let's face it, everybody has a different communication method that they prefer. Some people like texting, some people prefer a phone call. So I think you'd need to kind of attack it at all angles. Emails, texts, live call, town hall is a wonderful idea. But first and foremost, they have to know what the issues are so that you can get that input. But government transparency is key. Not only would I be totally transparent with what happens in my office, I would push for transparency across the state. When I was in the school board, go to my school board Facebook page, and there are tons and tons and tons of posts where I was putting the agendas out there and letting people comment on it, and it was my mission to make it transparent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gearing, same question.
Yes, I do believe an open door policy and transparency is key. You still have to go out and see them, meet the people. You can't, hide somewhere or hang out in Harrisburg and not stay in touch with your constituents. And there's many different ways, as has been discussed, to keep in touch with your constituents. And the issues for the constituents, you don't tell them what their issues are. They tell you what their issues are, okay? Because everyone's different, and we all think differently, and we all come from different backgrounds. And so, what's important to you isn't necessarily what's most important to your neighbor. But it's my job to take all of those issues and represent you when those things come up on to be voted upon or to have a bill put together. That's fun.
Thank you. Mr. Cully, same question.
Can you repeat?
Yes, the question is, as a representative, in a democratic republic, what specific steps will you take to ensure that your constituents' voices and concerns are present when you vote on their behalf in Harrisburg?
Well, for one, I think I like the idea of, I've seen some politicians do this. They put out an explanation of how they voted or why they voted and how they voted on a particular bill. But before the bill comes to vote, I think using technology like social media or whatever, let people know that this is coming up. Because some things, I mean, in our busy lives, a lot of bills go through, and you just don't hear about them until after the fact. I think that's paramount. But I think you need to listen to the people you represent with one caveat. You listen to them, but you don't implement things that are not within the constraints of the Pennsylvania Constitution and the U.S. Constitution. You gotta work within that framework. That's where government has gotten way out of kilter of where it should be. Our state government and our federal government is trying to do way too much, taxing us too much, regulating too much, and we just really need to scale that back so that people can afford to live better here in our county and in our state.
Thank you. Mr. Perubsky, same question.
Ladies and gentlemen, people of the 51st, I'll work tirelessly in this seat for you. I'm a farmer. I'm no stranger to hard work. You'll never hear out of me that, I'm sleepy or I'm not gonna do for you what you ask of me. I'll set up offices around this district. I believe I'll get 3 offices. We're gonna set them up and I'm gonna put office hours in those offices, even if I have to sit in there myself on a Saturday in the evening so the working person can end up at that office and voice their concerns with me. I'm gonna be there for you and I'll work tirelessly. As far as the issues, the people tell the government what to do, not the other way around. And I'll be there for you. Thank you.
Thank you. This will be our last question of the evening, number 10, pertaining to jobs, and we'll be starting with Ms. Krupa. While many counties have established industrial and energy production sectors, Fayette County, especially Uniontown, is known for being largely dependent upon retail and medical services as the major sectors. Can you lay out your plan for growing the industry and energy production sectors in Fayette County?
But I think you first have to face and fight at the state level, and also lean on your national representatives. We have to fight against Biden's policy with respect to the national natural gas industry. But my brother-in-law is the director of the CTI in Greene County, and he specifically creates programs and bases programs, for example, to give people, the students, the training and experience and expertise they need to, as soon as they're done with their program at the CTI, they're able to go and take that job in the gas industry or the nursing field or whatever it may be. But until we face the issue in terms of the regulations, I think that's going to be an uphill battle, frankly. But I would support legislation that would open up that industry. As that happens, it's key to make sure that people have the training that they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gearing, same question.
Would you please repeat the
Yes.
question?
Pertaining to jobs, while many counties have established industrial and energy production sectors, Fayette County, especially Uniontown, is known for being largely dependent upon retail and medical services as their major sectors. Can you lay out your plan for growing the industry and energy production sectors in Fayette County?
Okay, thank you. Again, I don't want to slight our medical community or our retail community. Unfortunately, we have very little retail left in Fayette County. It's dwindled as well. There's not much going on at the malls, nothing going on downtown. It's disappointing. So I think that we should have more retail. The biggest retail that we've got is eateries and restaurants. We need our medical communities. Thank goodness that West Virginia came in, and so that we still have a Uniontown hospital. It'd be a shame if we didn't have a hospital. Do we need to grow other industries? Yes, we do. And again, I mentioned, as you're talking about energy, yes, gas is a major play. And is the energy and EQT more interested in drilling more in Fayette County right now? Yes, they are. Been talking to a few of those companies right now and trying to get some timelines on some things. One of the things that needs to take place is there's a cracker plant north of Pittsburgh that's going to open up. At which point it needs to be fed. Okay, so we need to have natural resources going through there. That's going to spur more jobs in the area. And again, with that brings other
Time.
rolling companies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Cully, same question.
Taxes and regulations both need to go down significantly. And the way you do that, you have to cut government spending somewhere. And you have to deal with the things that both the state, even the county, and the federal that are doing that are not constitutional and that are not helping the vast majority of people. Corporate welfare, Pennsylvania has one of the highest corporate welfare rates in the country. That should disappear, honestly, and cut the taxes directly. How much, that you cut goes directly into a tax cut. Regulations, you do need some basic regulations, but the paperwork is just crazy. Having worked for the federal government, a contractor at the federal government at 2 different labs, I spent probably half my time as an engineer doing paperwork, which I'd rather have been doing engineering. And the same with just about any business. You want to do your business. You don't want to be bogged down in just time-consuming regulations that really aren't helping anything. That's where I would start.
Thank you. Mr. Prupski, same question.
Before I were to start, will we be given an opportunity to give a closing remark or a closing statement after the question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. To answer this question, to bring businesses into the 51st, and especially the gas, I'm a part-time instructor at the CTI here in Fayette County, and we need to promote our labor market and market our labor market to these businesses. We have welders, we have pipe fitters. We need to show that we have access to this type of labor market, so they'll come in and they'll want to drill and they'll want to build pipelines. And we have to rein in the DEP. My grandfather used to say it stood for Don't Expect Permits, but it's the Department of Environmental Protection. It paints with too broad of a brush, and it's oppressive to small businesses. It's too hard to navigate. As a state rep, I'd make them answer the phone and say, how can I help you for our businesses here in the 51st? Or I'd help those businesses navigate that department. And I want to support businesses moving into this area to increase tax revenue for our tax base, so we don't ever have to raise taxes again, property taxes. If you grow the base, you don't have to raise the taxes. And that concludes my response. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nicholson Moran, same question.
Okay, well, I don't know how retail is king here. I mean, Walmart has the market cornered. I mean, the mall's dead, and downtown is a ghost town anymore. And, I know every inch of this county. I've been just about everywhere. And there's places I don't even want to travel through. I mean, I have a degree from Penn State in Administration of Justice, and I can say, until you get a handle on the crime, and that's what I keep preaching to you people tonight, until we get a handle on the crime, we're not going to grow as a community. I mean, that's why places like Detroit and other major cities have gone downhill. I mean, the crime's escalated. People ran from the places. They don't want to stick around. Places aren't going to grow when the crime's high, and it's going up every day. I mean, there's places I won't go. Gallup Avenue, Connellsville Street. I mean, even, like I said, Walmart. I mean, it's just a bad place. Every time I go up there, there's a cop car. I said, they need to close that liquor store down up there and put in a mini police barracks. I mean, they need to have a satellite office there so they have a presence. Maybe that'll help deter some of the crime. I don't know. There's just a lot that goes on up there. I mean, it's like its own little city. I mean, people congregate up there, and you hear people hollering. I mean, pretty soon there's going to be shots fired up there. I mean, it's just a bad place. I mean, we got to get a handle on the crime and keep people out of jail and do some interventions. Build some youth rec centers instead of other businesses. I mean, do something for the kids. I mean, once people get in the criminal justice system, it's hard to keep them out of jail. It's a vicious cycle.
Thank you very much. That concludes the questions that were submitted. We are going to grant 90 seconds to each candidate for closing remarks, with the reminder that you will not be able to negatively use that time to attack any candidates or speak ill of any other candidates. And we're going to be starting with Mr. Gearing. If you would like closing comments, 90 seconds are yours.
I got the short straw again. Thank you very much. First, I'd like to, again, thank the committee for holding this forum, give us this opportunity, okay? And Seth, and thank you for the technology so that people can get out and see what it is that we had to say. Again, my name is Gary Gearing, and I believe that, it's supposed to be of the people, by the people, but most importantly, for the people. And I believe that gets lost, okay? This is supposed to be about you and us coming together and moving forward and making this a better place and a better community. That's what I hope to be able to do for you. Thank you.
Thank you. 90 seconds, Mr. Pelly.
Thank you for the opportunity for me to be up here, setting up the process for selection. If I am selected, I will listen to the concerns of the district. And my philosophy is that government isn't good because they try to do too much. We need to do less government, spend less in government, and let the free market, the small businesses, let them thrive instead of being bogged down in endless regulations and too much taxes. I don't think we're going to see prosperity here unless we get a handle on a bloated government in Harrisburg, as well as federal. But what we're talking about here is at the state level representing our district. And our state has the third slowest growth rate in the country. There's a reason for that, because our government has been bloated, spending too much money, taking too much debt, regulating too much, and people are going elsewhere for jobs. And it'll continue to happen unless we rein things in.
Thank you. 90 seconds, Mr. Probsky.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone that put this together this evening. It's been a pleasure speaking with all of you. And I'd like to take this time to appeal to the committee people of the 51st District. The decision you have to make on whose name appears on that ballot is no easy task, and I don't envy that decision. As elected representatives, you were chosen to act in the interests of the people of the 51st. Political figures don't get to pick their replacements, the people do, and you are their voice. The Republican-held legislature holds a 23-seat majority. We have to maintain that majority. We can't risk nominating a candidate that possibly doesn't have money, organization, or a huge base of supporters that we wouldn't want to disenfranchise. My petitions in the spring were served to the Secretary of the Commonwealth, nearly 500 signatures. In the most statesmanlike manner, I navigated the primary and started a movement, and now I'll quote from John 12:24. Very truly I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat fall onto the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. Just like planting that little kernel of wheat, I need your vote to unify this party and continue the movement I started this spring. I need your vote to unify the party and get to the general to defeat the Democrats.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nicholson Moran, 90 seconds.
Okay, well, I was born and raised in Uniontown, attended Laurel Highlands School District, and like I said, went to Penn State and got a bachelor's in administration of justice, and later went on to be a nurse. And I work in Morgantown right now. I have 3 lovely daughters and 4 grandchildren, a member of Abundant Life Church, so I'm a God-fearing woman. I'm a local farmer. I live on a farm. A lot of residents in the county and even outside the county love to drive by with their kids and their dogs and their grandchildren. I'm an advocate for autism, and I'm always tirelessly helping people, standing up for their rights. It's like a never-ending quest of mine to fulfill my God-given purpose. And one thing I'd like to say is taking this, I make a lot of money. I make over $100,000, way over $100,000. And I'm not bragging. What I'm saying is to take this job, this would be a pay cut, but I'm willing to do it. I mean, you guys need somebody like me, somebody down to earth. I'm no fancy person. Like I said, farmer, nurse, mother, that kind of stuff. And I just want to help you guys get something accomplished in this county and represent the good people. And I just feel compelled, to be your voice in Harrisburg.
Thank you. Ms. Krupa, 90 seconds.
Thank you. If you would have asked me 3 weeks ago if I had any interest in this position, I would have laughed at you. I may even have cussed at you. But I realize that my plan for myself is not always God's plan for me. And win or lose your nomination or win or lose the election, I'm here where I am now because that's God's plan for me and I have faith in that. What made me consider the position was that I want to make sure that we have moral, ethical, conservative Christian leadership in Harrisburg. And I've been all those things historically. I've not been active with the committee in recent years. I was previously, but I have been active behind the scenes. Last year, when you went to vote at the primary and all the Republican ballots got spit out, I was the attorney that dropped everything, went to court and filed the emergency petition so that the court would enter a court order saying, you know what, all the Republican ballots need to be counted at the precincts. So any poll workers in here might not like me. But the idea behind it was that they were gonna be counted before you left. Just real quickly, I did receive the Firearm Owners Against Crime, their endorsement today. I was really excited about that. But historically, I have been an advocate for our constitutional rights. I will continue to do that wherever I'm at. And thank you for your time. Thank you to the committee for the transparency and the way you guys have done it, everything. Thank you.
That concludes our candidate forum for the replacement appointment for the 51st District. Again, the committee would just like to urge all of those committee men and women sitting in the 51st District that will now have to cast a ballot tentatively on the 21st to take the information and the responses that you've heard from these candidates back to your precincts. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. God bless and good evening.
Thank you.